Okay. Hey everyone, this is Vaughn. I'm the host of the Voncast show. And today with me is a former classmate of mine who's also an actress who I had no idea was an actress. She is my Asian American 201 history class. And then I found out she was an actress, I think a couple weeks ago over at the coffee shop when I met up with her randomly. Without further ado, here's Tiffany.
Thank you for having me today, Vaughn.
Hi, how's it going?
Pretty good. Fall semester is chaotic as usual, but hanging in there.
Good. Okay, cool. So, let's see. You told me you grew up in the Middle East. Can you tell me about that? How was it growing up in the Middle East?
Oh God, actually, it still surprises me that a lot of families in the 90s actually, they would migrate from the Philippines in hopes of coming to the West for a better life. And so most of these families, they would temporarily stay around the Middle East, preferably like Sharjah, Abu Dhabi. And Abu Dhabi, which is the capital of United Arab Emirates, that's where I stayed at. I'd have to say that it was a very wonderful childhood. Like, I'm very thankful of all childhoods in the world. I was blessed with this one. Abu Dhabi, it's basically the sister city of Manhattan. So I grew up in a city.
Really?
Like, when I was a toddler, I learned how to like hail a taxi cab. I used to do that whistle. Now I can't do that whistle anymore. But it was a melting pot, a wonderful haven of learning all kinds of cultures. In the 90s, there were cultures, like Filipinos would be there, Pakistani, Indians, British people were there. It was a beautiful melting pot back then.
Wow, I had no idea. I do know that a lot of Filipinos, they go there for work.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to go. It seems like a very beautiful place. It's just unfortunate that the West can oftentimes depict the Middle East in a negative light. Obviously, with your experience, it wasn't.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think it's just the politics and the times right now. However, to my experience, like the people in the Middle East, they're some of the most wonderfully beautiful souls you'll ever meet. And actually, I still remember to this day, one of my very, very first best friends was an Arabic boy that lived next door to me. And every day, coming from a British kindergarten school, no, it was a British preschool actually. It was called Giggles International School. So him and I, we would like sit together in the bus every day, and I was the only Filipino in that class. Everyone else were Arabic or like British international students, and they didn't mind that I was Asian. Like, I had no idea, by the way, like what prejudice and racism and discrimination meant. And so I sat down in an American classroom in 4th grade, and in the American school system, they said, by the way, these are the terms. Like, I've never dealt with that before.
Wow.
So in the Middle East, it's the most wonderful melting pot there.
That's great. Definitely want to visit that place sometime. So you came here. You came from the Middle East to here in 4th grade, right? When did you get into acting?
Actually, my first love is dance. So when I was a toddler, I fell in love with ballet specifically, and I didn't really get into more acting opportunities until I came to America, because there was so much more. We are very blessed with a lot of resources here that people take for granted. In Abu Dhabi, my very first opportunity to learn a dance class was a mother of a classmate, where every weekend she would clear her living room of furniture just so a dozen girls who would like catch, brief clips of the Nutcracker, Swan Lake, and VHS so we can practice our basics. And that was my only form of dance, my only form of performing arts there. And so when I came to America in 2003, I vowed to myself that I would seize all kinds of opportunities I could get to learn. But regards to acting, I'd have to say that I was introduced to it in the gift of a film my dad introduced me to. He's a huge movie buff, and I got that from him. So I remember when I was 2 years old, I fell in love with movie musicals and like ballets. And Singing in the Rain is like my favorite musical, my favorite movie. And so when I arrived to America, I'm going to be honest, like my first opportunity to act was in a 7th grade play of Romeo and Juliet. And I was an infamous Capulet, Juliet. That was my first onstage role.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
How was it? Like, was that your first time being on stage and performing or acting in front of people?
No, it wasn't actually. I grew up in a very prosperous Christian church community back in the Middle East, and like the international private schools I lived in there, they're very, very cultured with etiquette classes and performing arts. So, I mean, in these private schools, like it was a very, very centralized atmosphere at the time, where we didn't have much dance studios or some sort of marketing network or some sort of resource that, you know, some place like the Valley or like LA would have. So there, it's like any like opportunity, someone said, hey, I want to choreograph a dance, let's do it. Some friends would get together and do it, not knowing what they're doing. So I would kind of be on stage for little bits and pieces and talent shows and whatnot like that. When I was in kindergarten, I was in a beauty pageant contest.
Wow.
So that was, I love the stage, I'm going to be honest.
Right, that's cool.
Never had stage fright. So it wasn't until I came to America, I thought, okay, I actually have to get on a stage, see my name in a playbill, and realize if it's for me. And I fell in love ever since. So.
That's awesome. Yeah, you know, as an artist, I make music and I still get stage fright. That's really cool that you don't. I don't know, I get nervous, I forget my lines or something. Has that ever happened to you?
Actually, no. I don't know what it is.
That's awesome. I think you're like destined to do this.
I wonder, like, really, so what's the thing that scares you most when you're in the moment?
I think what it is, from my experience, it's lack of preparation. Sometimes I neglect going over my lines and performing, that when I get on stage, my mind just goes blank. I start staring at people, but for the most part, recently it hasn't happened.
That's good.
I've been pretty good, but I guess it's just those butterflies and jitters in the beginning. You're about to go up, it's anticipation. I don't even know if it's like a bad thing. It feels great when you get on the stage, but I think it's anticipation when you're being called up, like you're performing and you have one or two people ahead of you, and they call your name and you go up on stage. That's what it's that nervousness, I guess.
It's a very interesting adrenaline rush that only performers would understand.
That's what it is, adrenaline rush.
Yes, and that overwhelms you a bit, like in the moment.
Yeah, I think it does, but once you start and you get a feel for the crowd, the audience,
The energy.
it goes a lot better.
Yeah.
But it's just, I feel unfortunate because the acts before me, I can't 100% enjoy their performance because I'm too busy rehearsing my lines. But after that, I'm 100% like receptive. So who were your early inspirations? Like what, you said like you watched Nutcracker or you watched some stuff?
Actually, that's funny. So according to my mom, my earliest inspirations were Lea Salonga and Selena. I mean, I'm a 90s kid.
Okay.
And I don't know, it must have been like their empowering stage presence or how effortlessly they could dance. Also, Singing in the Rain. I probably watched it thousands of times now that I'm 23 years old, but Gene Kelly was my very first movie crush. And the thing that would always get me whenever I watch musicals is how effortlessly a dancer could just go through an entire choreography with not breaking a sweat all in a single take. To me, that's really the art of performing. It's not per se being a perfectionist, but it's being a progressionist that you invest more in, I guess, the rehearsal process and developing yourself. And so, yes, my earliest inspirations were more so the really gifted performers. And yeah.
Cool. Wow, it's pretty neat.
Who were your early inspirations?
For music? Turning the tables on me. Wow, unexpected. You know, my first real rap album was a Lil Wayne, like the old Lil Wayne, like called Block is Hot in like 2001, 2002.
Nice.
But my first official rap CD was Big Willie Style by Will Smith.
That's
I came home one day from LA, and then my parents had the Big Will Smith CD on my desk.
That's awesome.
But then, I don't know, I got into rapping in like 2001, 2002. One thing that really blew my mind was there was this Chinese-American rapper at the time named Jin. He was in this show in BET called Freestyle Friday, and he kept winning these freestyle battle competitions. And that was really inspirational for me because that was the first time I saw someone who is Asian American, who may not be Filipino, but I saw him on national TV. I'm like, whoa, I can really do this. And then 8 Mile came out, and rest was history from there.
Yeah. Would you say that was like the first moment you saw someone like you? Like, I knew that a couple weeks ago there was a trending Twitter hashtag that hashtag first time I saw me, and I was curious about that, so I clicked on it, and apparently it was a lifestyle magazine's experiment to see if girls and guys around the world would say, hey, when was the first time you saw you on screen that you realized your kind was there? And I contributed to that, and for me, the first time I saw me was Mulan.
Really?
Yeah,
Nice.
It was a Disney film.
That's
it's
true.
very groundbreaking, and I thought, oh wow, like she's not necessarily Filipino, but you know, she's not your damsel in distress either, and that was very inspiring at the time.
That's true. The first Filipino person I saw on the screen was Rufio from Hook.
Oh right, he was Filipino.
Dante Brasco, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah, that blew my mind because he was with Robin Williams, and I was like, whoa, I can't believe it was a Filipino on the screen. I didn't want to be an actor right then and there, but I thought that was pretty amazing. Sorry, I'm sick still.
Hope you get better soon.
I'm not smoking weed, I swear. So, can you explain to us the process of acting gigs? Like, how did you get into acting? I mean, you did do theater, but what was the next level? Like, how did you get there?
I'd have to say timing and opportunity became really great companions at this point. Shortly after I graduated high school, I became a full-time community student. However, I really did miss acting, and at the time I was still deciding what was going to be my bachelor's degree route. Fortunately, I have a relative who was kind of in the industry back then as a child actor, and he kind of came back as an entrepreneur, and he nudged me and said, "Hey, so I know an acting school, and would you like to audition?" And I said, "Okay, what's the catch?" And he said, "I'll give you the documents to prepare with. Just show up there, do your best. I trust you." I'm like, all right. So I sat down in this audition of this acting school back in Mission Valley in San Diego around 2013. And there were 50 people in the room. And the secretary said, "Hi, well, good morning. Welcome to this acting school. By the way, we only accept 12 people per season, so break a leg." And I remembered being in the room where I was the youngest of my batch, and the woman who auditioned next to me, she was a well-seasoned New York and Los Angeles theater, radio, commercial actress, and in my head I thought, all I have are simple high school theater credits, but I went with it, and knowing that, you know, when it comes with the acting process, you really can't just view the destination. You realize it's a very cutthroat journey. It's a thrill. It's a hustle. And a lot of people forget, or a lot of people who are not in this journey, they think it's just more so the red carpet. They think it's just more so the glamorous like credit. It's not. It's your audition, your process begins the moment you get the opportunity. That's when you become obsessive 24/7. And I feel like that's kind
great.
of my problem, because I would love to commit to something like that, but then I wouldn't be able to focus in school. So anyways, when I did the audition, I thought, okay, I don't have much to lose. I only have a few credits. I'm not going to get in. A week later, I was shaking hands with a secretary that announced to everyone, and I started my contract there. So for me, I was very fortunate that I had a network, and I went to acting school. I was there for a couple of years. I met wonderful mentor and colleagues, and then I still wanted to go the extra mile, because in my school, I learned like etiquette and how to manage your image, how to be of good poise, how to network, how to have a successful audition. And you can only learn so much in a classroom, but for the ultimate individual, if you really want to succeed, you have to go above and beyond. And me, being stubbornly overachieving since I was a child, I asked my mentor, I said, "Hey, so are there any on-set opportunities I can come across?" And that's when he came to me about the 48-hour film project. Have you heard of it?
I have not.
the 48-hour film project is actually a long-running worldwide competition that spans over 150 cities.
Wow.
Where every couple weeks or so there will be a different city that would host this project, and it's very exciting where all kinds of people could get together and create a movie, a short film with like certain guidelines in under 48 hours. You really get to know people, and I'd have to say this was my very first playground opportunity, and from there I just kept going with emotions. I didn't know much at the time. I was 19 years old and I was just getting started.
Right.
And so I started networking and blooming. And so the projects I worked with, I got to meet wonderful people. Those wonderful people had more projects, so I got to go to those projects, and it just became a snowball effect. And I'd have to say that led me to wonderful colleagues, a wonderful manager, more acting projects, and more networking experiences. And I'd have to say that it's really the journey that gets you through everything. And I remembered my mentor's wife once told me, when it comes to the industry, when it comes to entertainment, you're already cutthroat enough. You only lose when you tell yourself you're done. You only lose when you quit.
Right.
You, literally, through all rejections, through all successes, the only way is up if you're moving forward.
Wow.
So one more thing I'd like to share with you that I still have yet to meet someone that has the same mentality as me. When my cousin, my relative, told me about the acting school, and he said, "Are you down for it?" I said, "Absolutely. I don't know what to expect. I'm just going to go with it anyways." And he said, "All right, I'm going to give you this little piece of information. You can view it as a myth or as a fact. It's up to you. But I just want to plant this in your head and see where you're going to take this from." I said, "All right, go for it." And he said, "So say there's a myth that says the typical actor gets rejected 99 times before you land your dream role. How would you approach that?" And I thought, oh wow, do you think that's why a lot of people quit? Like, a few roles in? He said, absolutely. Now I'm going to see how you're going to play that out 5 years from now. Well, so what I did, I view that as an exciting challenge rather than as an overwhelming burden. So I got excited where week after week I would get all these casting notices. I would come across all these opportunities and I would scout them through a lot of non-union sites, through manager, through a lot of friends who were having projects. And every time I got rejected, instead of moping around in my room, I would write on a piece of paper that says actress rejections. I would start tally marking my rejections. And I would remember that if a month went by and that tally mark wasn't growing, I would realize, okay, I'm not working hard enough. I gotta do better on the process and I gotta keep trying. And so that became exciting for me, and right now I'd have to say I'm about halfway there. That list, I put that in my closet, back in my room in San Diego. And so for me, every morning, when I get ready for an audition, a Skype interview, some sort of producer's meeting, I would look at that and think, okay, I'm still working, I'm still hustling. So that's my mentality on that.
That's such a great mentality in life in general, because I don't know. You can't always win. You can't always get
Absolutely.
you can't always land the role, or just in general in music or in life. I think you can learn a lot from failures and rejections. I think that's that hunger, like you said. It's not about, in rap, it's not about making all the money and being all the material possessions that come with it and notoriety, but
Absolutely.
there's something about like you said, just hustling and grinding and staying consistent, even if you get rejected or whatnot. I think that's, I don't know, there's something about that you keep striving for it, not getting discouraged. That's really admiring, and it's tough. I mean, I can't imagine with roles. I mean, with music, I don't have to submit. I just do my own thing, and I gauge sometimes the success by the reception from people in social media. But with yours, it's cut and clear. Okay, you didn't make the role. And that must be tough, but that's really good. You have such a strong mentality, because I can imagine. I mean, people get discouraged. You don't win you don't get these roles. It's not how you planned it to be, but that's a really good mindset to have.
Thank you.
Also, just in life, life's tough, and I think if you can overcome those failures and grow, that's a win in a sense. So, since you're Filipino, can you describe to us what's your experience as a female Asian American actress is so far?
Sure. I'd have to say that now is a very exciting and challenging time to be involved in this environment. I'd have to say a few years ago when I started out doing non-union projects, and this is when I was still in community college, I realized that every indie film project I walked on, I was either the only Asian or the only girl, or I was the youngest. And it wasn't always all that, it wasn't a very toxic environment, but it's just something that I observed. And also even in a lot of film classes and performing arts classes I would always see there was more guys than girls. And I always see I could count, all the Asians in the room on one hand.
Wow.
And I don't know, I understand everyone has different paths, everyone has different levels of achieving their goals and such. But in my case, I have to say that one of my biggest struggles as a female Asian American is finding a very relevant mentor. I still have yet to uncover it, and I know there's a lot of wonderful hardworking women who have been in this field long before me that would be incredible mentors. But in the meantime, from my path, it was very hard because I come from an environment that most people my age pursue medical or business fields, which I highly respect. Whereas when it came to my field, I remember telling myself, I feel like the stakes are higher for me because I have a lot more to lose. I don't have that much to look up to. And in the meantime, if I don't have much to look up to, I'm going to scramble around to see what opportunities I can seize and make for myself. And just hope that if I don't have a credible female Asian American mentor right now, let's see if my best self a year from now could be that mentor. So I would strive towards that emotional gauge. And so although I have to admit that when I transferred from San Diego Miramar College to California State University in fall 2015, I vowed to my parents that I would take a hiatus from acting so I can focus on my studies here. And I have to say that although I haven't been actively in the community, in the industry, I still try to network when I can. I have been reading trade journals, keeping up to date with what's happening in the industry, and so I could still be well informed of what's happening. And I'd have to say, this is a very exciting time to be an Asian American that is in the arts, because we have yet to not just make our mark, but to keep cultivating and building a legacy for more people, more generations below us and younger and yet to be born to move on. And I know it hasn't been a very, very easy process, but I'd have to say it's a very exciting time. And I remember when I mentioned to you that when we in that Asian American Studies class we had, I took that class because I used that class as a resource for writing a script.
I had no idea. That blows my mind. We just took that class because we had to, and it was informative. But you had another agenda. That's wow. And that class, if you don't know, that class is very rigorous. The teacher is great, but she's very strict. She is not afraid of yelling at you, humiliating you in front of the class. Only if you mess up. She won't do it just to be mean. But
very intense.
To think that you took that class
as an elective.
Wow. That's very admirable. You're acting as a student when the whole time you fooled everybody. You weren't actually an actress playing as a student. That blew my mind. You're sitting in the back. I remember you far right in the back. Wow. I remember, I think we were trying to come up with then and nows. You're in that group. No, we're the Family Feud, I think.
I think so.
Yeah. But back to it, that's pretty crazy that you used an Asian American class that dealt with the history of Asian Americans.
Oh, yes.
To write a script. Very cool.
And I remember a wonderful comment that she made towards the end of the semester right before finals, where she said, in our very last class session, she said, all of you in this room, by the end of the semester, you have way more knowledge, and you can use that knowledge as a wonderful resource that is really irreplaceable, that you would not find in a standard history textbook or in a shelf of a bookstore. And I took that personally and to heart, because I realized In this time and age, if we want to see more diverse narratives on there, we need the resources and we need to get that. And it's difficult, you know, it's very, very difficult as an Asian American. So I was very thankful. I did well in that class.
Good for you.
And I really enjoyed it, no matter how intense it was. You know, actually, that professor,
Uba.
she reminds me of, actually, believe it or not, that's how my elementary school teachers were in my private school. So they were very intense, but they meant well. And I just got triggered into that hardworking mindset. So I thought, okay, I got to do my best, even if it's not my major.
Yeah.
And there was a moment or in the middle of the semester, my mom would check in on me. She's like, hi, how are you doing? How are your scripts? Mom, I can't. I have a midterm. She's like, that's not even your major. I said, but Mom, I got to do well. Like, I need this material for my script someday. And so that resource was really I'm very thankful for all the notes, all the lessons I made. And so being a female Asian American today and having taken that class and, you know, still trying to learn more about what's happening in the world, socio-politically, economically, I remember there was a trend that connected all the patterns of all the waves of Asian Americans coming into America, from Chinese Americans to Filipinos to Koreans, and I realized there's a very powerful essence of unity, of community, that is definitely comes undefeated when people stand together in a group. Because if you're all scattered and you all clash each other, how are you going to come across any kind of conflict if you're going to keep going against the grain with each other?
Right.
I do believe that we need to help each other out, like help out our brothers and sisters that are trying to make their name, that are trying to create art, that are trying to create wonderful resources for generations to come, because this is just the beginning of our battle. And I'd have to say that this is not the time to give up.
Yeah.
So that really inspired me when I was reading and learning from all those intense study guides. And I remembered, this is what we need. Like, I can apply this to, as an Asian American in the film industry. I'm slowly getting acquainted with all wonderful artists, and I realized that we're all so scattered, but we need more unity, that we need more, I guess, I'm trying to think of a good analogy, but I feel that the veins of everyone's art, of everyone's potential are so scattered out, but if we can only like intertwine all of our progresses together, we will definitely create a positive movement.
Wow.
And we need that. We need that now. And in spite of all adversity, I do believe that Asian Americans as a group, as a whole, as a family, a community, we do have the power to create the best circumstances for generations to come.
Wow, that was so well said. Oh my gosh, that's so moving. Wow, I just gotta let all that sink in. Wow, that was really good. Press rewind. That was really good. I could not have said that. That was so well said, eloquent. Oh my gosh. Dang.
It's relevant though, right?
Yeah, I'm like taken aback. I'm just like thrown off. It's so relevant. I really think that now more than ever we need to stick together. And like we just in general, like you can apply that to local artists and talent.
Yes.
You know, all these get together. There's so many of us. We all have like our different paths, but we all want, you know, striving for the same goal. But speaking of transition on, so you're saying that as a actress who's female and Asian American, you don't see too many Asian Americans, which gets into my next topic, which would be whitewashing in Hollywood. So whitewashing is a practice in the film industry of the United States in which white actors are cast in historically non-white character roles. This has been going on since the beginning of film here. It's nothing new, but I think now with social media, it's becoming more prevalent, not prevalent, but people are becoming more aware of what's going on. I mean, Emma Stone, I think she was cast as like a Korean person in some movie, I forget. Aloha. The more major ones, the one that caused a bunch of backlash was Ghost in the Shell, where Scarlett Johansson played Major Kusanagi. And even more recent was the Death Note series on Netflix, where Light Turner, who is Japanese, is played by someone who's not Japanese.
Yes.
But on the plus side, Ed Skrein, I don't know how to say his name, he was cast in Hellboy as Major Ben Daima, who's obviously of Asian heritage. Due to the backlash that from social media, he decided to drop that role. Why do you think whitewashing happens so much in Hollywood?
I'd have to say that it still applies to the kind of environment, the kind of narrative environment that old Hollywood as a system had cultivated. Actually, have you heard of a podcast called You Must Remember This?
No.
I'm a total history nerd when it comes to old Hollywood. For me personally, I enjoy learning about Hollywood history because I believe that if I want to prosper, if I want to learn all I could moving forward with the industry, I do want to learn about the patterns and how the system was created and who were the key people involved. And so there was an episode of You Must Remember This. It's a wonderful podcast by Karina Longworth that I enjoy learning about Hollywood history and the key people in it. There was an episode, Rita Hayworth. Do you know that actress? She was famous for Gilda. She was a very well-known, glamorous, gorgeous actress in 1940s Hollywood. So if you look on any Hollywood history textbook, if you look up movies, if you look on Wikipedia, you will see Rita Hayworth, and you think, okay, so she's a gorgeous American girl. But actually, when she was discovered, she used to be a dancer, a wonderful dancer, and she was discovered and given a makeover for Hollywood and to become a screen actress. She's actually of mixed Spanish blood, and her original name is Margarita Cancino. So when they found out, okay, she has something in there, but we don't like her look. Her look is too exotic.
Right.
So let's change her. And so they dyed her hair from black to blonde. They made sure that her skin was lightened, and they would light her properly per se. So the biggest irony is that when she would be cast in like these gorgeous exotic roles, you'd see basically a whitewashed creation because of the system. And the system does cater to that image of, still admiring, still upholding the whitewash image because it's been a standard for so long, and also with narratives that still address the old 20th century American ideals. And that's different now. Like, we are more ethnically diverse than ever.
Right.
So then you start to think, why is my kind not up there? Why can I not relate to me? And I'd have to say that it's common with the content creators. The content creators are the ones, like the producers who decide on the stories, the writers who write stories. But I say that we need more doers than spectators. It's one thing to be angry and rage and lash over, oh my God, another whitewashed story. Oh my gosh, another production like this. Are you serious? You can complain all you want, but I don't like being a complainer. I like getting stuff done. So another reason why I took that class. And I thought I got to research and learn and what's accurate and see what I can, whatever my call to action is, and write a story, hopefully, and bring awareness to, past narratives that we don't typically see in history textbooks of the last century addressing the American culture, because the American culture is not just American. The American culture is a very prosperous identity that cultivates and encompasses all kinds of cultures. We are all immigrants, and that's relating. I know that's a very, very sensitive topic now, as we've heard about the Dreamers and the unfortunate thing happening. As an immigrant, it saddens me, breaks my heart, and we need more unity than ever. We need a call to action. We need powerful voices who are not afraid to challenge, authorities and old school narratives. And although right now I'm not actively acting, I still like to keep track of the trade. So what I like to do is, just like headline news every day, you got to keep an open mind and listen. Because I'd have to say that beyond news headlines and Twitter outrages, you want to cultivate your presence in the now. And if you're someone that cares about changing or at least improving the landscape of more ethnic storytelling, diversity representation, cultivate and see how and why your voice would matter. Because by the end of the day, I think everyone's voices matters, not just the storytellers that have stuck with one demographic. I hope for a better generation. I hope for a more I guess, diverse generation in that we can relate and we can reach out to a kid who understands Eddie Huang in Fresh Off the Boat, or like that young adult who understands Aziz Ansari in Master of None. So whitewashing comes from the content creators. It's been a long overdue trend, way back when the studio system and old Hollywood crafted this paternalistic society. And in this paternalistic society, not only was whitewashing like the ideal image, but it also created a stance of inequality between men and women. So most men in those roles were very authoritative, and most women were all submissive. And so I think that yes, it still angers people. It frustrates me too. And as I like the references you made to Ghost in the Shell and Death Note, they're very prevalent, because it's funny because when you realize that this has been going on for so long, you really cannot ignore all the backlash anymore. And I'd have to say this is where technology comes in as a very powerful ally, as a powerful character in the 2010s decade. We are living in a more technologically evolving environment. And yes, people could see social media as a blessing and or a curse. Right. But I'd have to say in the stance, it could become a blessing because for the first time, not the first time, but at most, we are more aware of, I guess, the spectators, the audience's feedback through Twitter, through Facebook, through Tumblr, I don't know, all kinds of ratings, and Vimeo too, and YouTube, and studios can't ignore these. Like if they want to create art, if they want to create narratives for the next decade, you listen to what's your audience. Otherwise, you won't get any box office hits. Otherwise, you will have people banning your products. You will have people boycotting your shows. And then what use of that is in a capitalist society?
Right. I will say too that a lot of these shows, Ghost in the Shell didn't do well. Death Note's getting bad reviews. There was even a Dragon Ball live animated movie where the Goku is he's not Asian and horrible. And I think that the director apologized about it later on. But there's a trend here that when you whitewash characters, it tends to do bad. I hope that they see the correlation between whitewashing and poor reviews or people backlashing, and they get a hint like, hey, you can't be doing this, we should stop. Wait, did we talk about how the camaraderie and networking is?
Oh, not yet.
Yeah, because like you said, it's pretty cutthroat. Were you able to find any friends or mentors in the cutthroat business?
First of all, I love that you mentioned the term camaraderie, and so I wanted to look at the definition of it just to remind myself. So the definition of camaraderie is a mutual trust and friendship among people who spend a lot of time together, and that's very prevalent when you're constantly grinding through audition rooms. You see the same people on film sets. You work with the same team most likely, and I'd have to say that everyone in this industry, you come together for a reason, or maybe a couple of reasons. You come for the passion and the call to action to create or manifest narratives. Right. And sadly, by the end of the day, it's still tempting to view the person next to you as a rival, as an enemy, because unfortunately, the way the system has been constructed for about a decade, a century. Right. It's so competitive. It's competitive by nature. And it's competitive by nature because you cannot exactly cast everyone. Right. You cast the best actor for the role. You cast the best, you hire the best producer for the job. You don't just cast anybody that's your friend. Yes, and so people forget in the long run, and I'm guilty of this too, because it's so tempting. When you get so caught up in the process of being your best, being on top, you push everyone away. Yes. And that's very toxic. And by the end of the day, when you look at all the legendary icons of your said field, nobody got to the top without any help. You need to know how to network. But I'd have to say a thing that people forget is that in this industry, you still gotta cultivate relationships more than connections. People think of connections like, oh, I know a guy, I know this person, I know that person, I can hook you up. However, it's kind of a dead end when you think of people in your field as just connections, because it's a turnoff. To me, it's a turnoff when someone goes, hey, do you know someone for this? Or hey, can I get this from you? I get offended because I think, wait, I'm human by the end of the day. I'm human, I want to do my best, but I also look out for people.
Yeah.
And if you only refer to someone as a connection, that means you only have them in your mark as a favor.
Wow.
Like, getting a favor from them, and that feels pretty trashy, right?
Yeah,
like, you'd feel offended.
Yeah.
So I'd say that in terms of this camaraderie and networking in the acting world, in any industry basically, you want to foster relationships. By the end of the day, we're all people. We look to belong somewhere. We look to make something for ourselves, and we look to reach out to each other. So we could definitely cultivate relationships instead of connections, because in a relationship you invest in that person more than just what they can bring to the table, but more so who they become in your life. And that's very crucial.
Yeah, same goes for the music industry too. In hip hop, it's seen as, oh, who's the best? Who can do this better, that better? And it's tough. There's like that mentality where you have to be on top, where there's room for everybody on the top. You have to
Absolutely.
like really, you gotta encourage and help out people in your field.
Yes.
Like other artists. Promote their stuff as well if you like it, because we're all trying to get to the same goal. Let's help each other out. It's so much harder to get to the top just by yourself.
Absolutely.
Whereas you have people helping you out, and hey, if you have a chance to help them out, to like uplift them or to put them on a separate platform, do it. Especially local artists or your friends, because it's tough already.
It is.
There's so much. I don't know if you want to even, I guess it's a competition, and when I think of that, it makes getting to the top seem a lot harder, because you have to compete against everybody, including your friends. But whereas you see it as just like, I'm just trying to compete against myself, who I was yesterday or a year ago, my skills and my talents a year ago versus now, it's more doable then. I think it's also, too, when you compare yourself to other people,
Absolutely.
you kind of lose sight of your own unique, creative, traits that make you the artist you are.
Absolutely.
Whereas, like, you're trying to hop on a trend for views. I don't know. It's tough, but very well said.
Yes, I'd have to say that one more thing I recall that my acting mentor taught me. I have to say, of my couple years being his student, and I still keep in touch with him. He's a wonderful person. He was the first person, I'd have to say, that I come across whom I totally value his credibility, and I realized that you could still be a very down-to-earth, very kind, very passionate person in this cruel world. And from that, I realized, if it's a cruel world already, if it's a cutthroat industry, why do I have to contribute to that system?
Right.
I could try to stand out in a good nature by, doing the best I can and, reaching out to people and seeing the best in people. I don't know if it's because I was raised to believe that, you could still see the best in people by the end of the day. I think Anne Frank said something like that during World War II in her diary, but I do believe in that. And so camaraderie and networking and in your form of industry, any form of industry, does not have to be competitive. I believe the system, structure, the nature of that field, of any field, it could encourage the worst in people, but on the flip side, I do believe it also encourages the best in people, and I want to be in that side. I want to bring out the best side of people.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's a really good mindset that you have. See the best and just like try to really foster relationships, because you don't want to burn bridges where later down the road that's really that's really gonna like bite. It's karma. Whereas if you're nice and you're courteous, maybe that person down the road can help you out.
That's true.
But if you're really cutthroat all about yourself, that could really damage your reputation, and it could possibly hinder your career for anything.
That's true.
I think we mentioned what we can do to combat whitewashing, right? We definitely talked about that. Yeah, okay. Also, random question too. Are you a method actor? I've heard about these actors that like really are so focused in their role that they are the role outside of film.
I am actually.
Are you?
Yes.
Can you tell us how method acting works?
It's okay. So it's intriguing. I can't exactly just sit down and describe to you what it is, but I know that method acting does have a notorious, and yet it has a very significant stance in filmmaking, in theater, in acting in general. I actually first came across method acting when back in community college, I took a couple. Once again, this is me doing research, just like I did with that study class. So what's funny, there was a film class that was one of my GEs before I transferred to Cal State Northridge, and it was a research paper, and the film professor said you can write on any topic of film. And just me by nature, because I'm ridiculously, stubbornly overachieving, persistent, and obsessive when it comes to learning about what I want to learn. I'm not the kind of person, as a student, I'm not the kind of person that thinks, okay, what easy topic will get me an A? I'm not that person. I'm that person that goes, what do I actually want to learn more about? And I wanted to learn more about acting. So I was thinking, okay, that's way too broad. Let me see for this paper, what scope can I go for? And I thought, I wonder if there's any essence and any styles of film acting that have been derived from theater. I literally Googled it, and I found out about Lee Strasberg and the Actors Studio, and that opened a whole new world for me. And I know that after reading all the books and having been involved with projects, and I realized that method acting, the approach, it's very, very powerful. It's about the actor coming into terms and like cultivating yourself, your past, you as an entity, and using that for the project. And so I know that a very significant method actor that I personally love and look up to is James Dean. He studied under Lee Strasberg at the New York, the Actors Studio back in the 50s. And so I know that the campus, there's one in New York and one in Los Angeles, and there are programs. And I remember reading from the books, and it may be different now. It's been a while since I've looked into it, but it's funny when I was reading the books and I had to keep reading the text over and over to make sure I didn't misread it. So at the time, it's free to get into the Actors Studio. But the biggest catch is it's the most difficult audition of your life. They want to see if you as a human being, you can totally cultivate your essence and yourself into a role in the moment. And I remembered, I have the Lee Strasberg notes, which is kind of a pocketbook of acting tips and whatnot, how to also become more aware as a human being, like a lot of exercises, breathing exercises. It comes like with you have to tie your emotional and psychological stance into the physicality of your work. And that is where I believe why acting gets so obsessive for me. That's why I said to my parents, I'm not gonna act now. I want to focus in school, because knowing me, if I come across a project right now as a student, I will not do my homework for the semester. I will just devote like 24/7 towards that project. And so method acting actually was derived from a bunch of theater actors. Stanislavski was a well-known Russian teacher back in the early 1900s. These immigrants came to New York and they created a space, and that was a time that coincided with the growth of Hollywood after the whole Thomas Edison scandal, where Hollywood was built because they needed to get away from Edison's dictatorial system of patents on cameras.
Really?
Yes, so that's a fun fact. I love Hollywood history. And so Hollywood was actually growing on the West Coast because the people that used to create short films and these from Nickelodeons in the East Coast were getting tired and fed up with Thomas Edison's control. So they thought, why don't we get the equipment and move to the West Coast and start just creating projects. And so in this way, early Hollywood back in the 1910s, 1920s, that became the very, very first playground of filmmakers and actors. And so meanwhile, while Hollywood was creating its own thing, history guides us to realize that, okay, now these immigrant actors have come from, Europe to New York, and they want to create a space. And then someone had a theory, let's see if our theater studies, if our acting guidelines could actually help movie actors. And so there came the wonderful wave of film actors that have studied with the schools. Actually a lot of wonderful on-screen legends such as James Dean, Paul Newman, Marilyn Monroe, a lot of wonderful people, Martin Landau. And so I looked into that and I thought this absolutely, for me, connects the whole theater world to the filmmaking world. And so I would love to join the actor studio one day. Like, that's actually one of my goals before I die, because I want to learn from the best. And method acting is very intriguing. I know that not everyone does it, and it's very intense. To me, I view it as a lifestyle. I don't view it as just like a method, ironically,
Right.
but it's a lifestyle. And so that's why, for me, I believe that it's a hustle,
Right.
and I would invest in it 24/7 when the time comes.
So let's say you get a role, and how do you like method act? I mean, so let's say you get a role, and this is how this person is. Do you have to research the person's background, or how does it work? Like, I mean, so you're this person. You're this person like 24/7. Like when you're on your friends, like you're this person.
I start sinking into that. So, say for example, there was an audition opportunity that came up, and that one week I didn't do any of my homework, because to me personally, what someone once taught me was, when you're an actor and you have the opportunity, your audition does not start the moment you walk into the room, the moment you walk into your time slot. Your audition starts the moment you get the notice.
Oh,
that's how I see it.
wow.
And so I obsessively work towards it. So not only do I research, say there's a particular role, right? I research the role, and then I look into the background, and then I start wondering, and I would journal. That's why actors and writers, they're both very, very intensive thinkers, because you go beyond the scope of just what's on the surface. So for me, I would write everything down, write my thoughts, and then I would think, okay, so say, for example, the role is a waitress. And I don't know, the role, for example, I'm going to put it on the spot, a waitress in Los Angeles in the 1950s. So, okay, what area in the 1950s? Where in Los Angeles does she live? Like, what kind of waitress is she? Is she a night owl? Is she a morning person? And what would a waitress do? And so I would like to study. I would do my research, and I would scout and go to these places, maybe a diner, for instance, and then I could research and observe how waitresses, would work. Then I could ask a friend who's a waitress, and then I would interview them. So you're constantly learning, and you're constantly gathering resources from all areas, and that's where I realized that your perspective becomes a luxury when you really open yourself to learning more than just one scope. So for method acting, when the time comes to being character, you don't need to worry about being or switching character, because you've already become that. And it's an investment. I have to say, it's not just a practical or emotional investment. It's just the essence of it.
That's so dedicated to be this character 24/7 and learn the roles. Wow. I can't even
It's obsessive, but it's fun.
That's good. I mean, you're being obsessive in a healthy way, like something positive.
Absolutely.
So what advice do you have for actresses or women that want to be actresses or want to be in Hollywood or in television? What's your advice for them?
Oh God. I'm thinking of what would I say to myself if right now, if I could talk to myself when I was starting out. I'd have to say that your opportunities, they could be gifts. They come to you at the time and place, but it's really a call to action. It's a call to heart. By the end of the day, any irreplaceable day in our very short lives, what matters most is how you make the most of your days. And this applies to, when you suffer through a rejection, you realize you had a falling out with, a colleague who's also a filmmaker or whatnot. To women that want to be actresses, you absolutely can. It's not for the faint of heart. It's a hustle, it's an obsession, it's a cutthroat journey, but I'd have to say that it's an investment that surpasses more than just what you would see on Vogue magazines, and more than red carpets, more than the glamorous shots of the Oscars and whatnot. Actually, I still get social anxiety at a premiere. Of all the things of this whole process, I still dislike going to red carpet events, because to me, people who are on the other side of this journey, of this path, that's all they see. But you realize as a creator yourself that it's been from day one when you started writing out your stuff, you started grinding. And I'd have to say that for women out there, it doesn't matter what your status is in your economy, it doesn't matter where you are, it does not matter the opportunities or resources you have. if you are absolutely called to acting, do consider that you invest in yourself way more than just a headshot, way more than just a casting notice, because if it's really your calling, I do believe that there's only one way, and that's up. In spite of all adversity, you do have the strength and the beauty and the power to be your best self. Because there have been so many times where one walk into a room and think, okay, I'm the best actor here, I can do this. But the question is, it's not per se looking for the best actor, it's per se looking for the right person. And so, yes, to be an actor is a very, very difficult job. It's a non-stop grind, and you will have more failures than successes. You may come across way more adversaries than allies, but I do believe that when your heart's in the right place and your mind and your soul, you create this unity for yourself, that you take care of yourself. But at the end of the day, you have to remember to spare room for yourself. Yes, we live in a cutthroat world. Yes, we live in a cruel world, but you can absolutely achieve all that you want when you hope for the best and you realize that the bigger picture is more than just you at an end destination, at an end goal. It's more so when you want to contribute to something greater. I do believe that's where legacies can foster, because it's, by the end of the day, it's not just all about you, it's really all about the journey. And I do wonder, like, say you're an actor and like you die tomorrow, and like what have you left? And all that you've left are your work and your credibility in your work. And yes, to a typical spectator, you may think, oh, but what about the fame? And what about this and that? It's never about the fame. I think the way I see it is that in this field, in this industry, it just so happens that people who work in this industry has caused a divide between the doers and the spectators. And I remember when you asked me about stage fright, I've never gotten stage fright, not even when I was a toddler, because to me, I just knew that I've always wanted to be someone that would create. I've always wanted to be someone that would go through the motions, go through this journey, to find compelling narratives, to meet all kinds of wonderful storytellers and characters in this short life. Because for me, as an actor, by the end of the day, even as a human, I will always be guilty that life is so limited. Like, mortality is truly a price of humankind. And maybe perhaps as an actor, technically, I could cheat my way into that mortality by living out all these roles I can. And I can make the most of it. And even as a writer, too, when you want to invest in all these stories, I will never know how it was like for Anne Frank to live during World War II. I will never know how it was like for Amelia Earhart to be the first woman to fly across the world. I will never know how it was like for, Audrey Hepburn to dance with Fred Astaire in a movie, and I will always be guilty of those little things like that, the whimsical details of how life is just full of so many moments. And I think no matter where you are, just be very present, whether it's a big picture that you're about to see and you realize you're in the credits, or whether you're just someone that's looking at, old magazines of actors, or maybe if you're just a little girl in Abu Dhabi that your only access to any kind of art was a spaced out living room just so girls can learn ballet, and you vow to yourself, when I come to America one day, I'll make the most of it. No matter where you are, you definitely have the strength, the capacity, and the beauty, and the power to make the most of who you can be. Because let me tell you that the most important person that you're going to meet in all your life is the person that you strive towards, from this moment on. It's not going to be some overwhelming director. It's not going to be some intimidating producer. It's not going to be your worst critic. It's not going to be some rival that you're going to come across in audition rooms. Those are not that important. Those are just adversaries. But to me, I realized the most important person to spare room for by the end of any given day, any irreplaceable day in our lives as artists, as creators, as human beings, is yourself. So you want to start striving now. And trust me, the journey will be absolutely worth it. And I do believe that everything will come together and fall into place, because the world needs more storytellers. The world needs more wonderful narratives. And no one else can be a better writer or creator or actor of that narrative than yourself. So you could start now.
Wow. I'm speechless. That was really good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wow, that was so moving and inspiring. Where can we find you on social media or anything? Are you up there?
Oh yes. Well, I'm currently on Instagram as anime, ANEEMAE. I currently don't have my IMDb up because actually IMDb Pro would be a subscription, and you'd have to pay that yearly. And so because I took acting on a hiatus right now, I don't have that. But once I'm done with school and I graduate and I get into that, I'm gonna have that back on. But for the meantime, you can find me on Instagram as anime.
Awesome.
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm actually a very private person too, so like, you know, if you see me around the valley, maybe San Diego, once in a while I go to New York for projects and such, and just, you know, traveling around there, say hello.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Tiffany.
Thank you, Vaughn.
Yeah, thank you for a great conversation. It's a Voncast show.